halfway mark of the road less travelled.
Round 4 of the ABSA Off-Road Championship.
Gaborone, Botswana.
The desert in all its splendor.
The Toyota Kalahari Botswana 1000 Desert Race.
An event with a rich history.
And harsh conditions. Hello all, I'm Arnold Getz.
And I'm Roald Woods.
And this is our look back at some enthralling racing in the 4th race of the ABSA Off-Road Championship.
So hold on tight.
And then, of course, there was also the motorbike and quad bike racers who were racing over a shorter route. Not that that would have made it any easier whatsoever. In both racing categories, the production cars and the specials, everything finely poised and all to race for with no dominance established at the top.
And as the team surveyed the race books, most of them were planning the fall of Nissan, who were looking for win number 3 of the season.
While championship pace setter Duncan Vos was looking for a second consecutive win and a third of the season.
But he had very little breathing space over the Ford duo, while Port Elizabeth winner Mark Grenier was 19 points off the pace.
Vos had high hopes.
Well, they're always high. We're under a lot of pressure from getting the team to do well. The cars are good. We've tested since the last race. Hopefully we've got them well suited to the conditions that we're probably going to expect for this race. You know, we're expecting quite thick sand in the northern loop. So the cars are going to be good. They're going to be capable of winning. We've just got to try and do the job.
And Duncan, again, you've got a stand-in navigator, young Louis Weichelt, in for the experienced Ralph Pitchford.
Yeah, you know, it's not first prize. Ralph is away on business, but Louis is very good. You know, I'm very happy with him, and luckily I can go into the race knowing that we've started building up a bit of a relationship, and I can drive confidently with him. He's a good navigator, so it's not a problem for me.
Vos quietly confident. For Toyota, there was heartbreak in last year's event, as Mark Grenier crashed virtually within sight of the finish line while leading. He was desperate to clinch a win in Botswana this time round.
We had a great event last year up until the last 40 k's and it all fell apart. It's a tough event, so yeah, you got to piece the whole thing together and not just, you know, it's got to go all the way to the end.
And how does this event differ from others on the race calendar, Mark?
It's exceptionally long. You know, it's not, I wouldn't say the toughest race of the year, it's definitely the longest race of the year. And yeah, you've got to plan it quite carefully. You know, you don't want to go into the last day with a dilapidated car, and you know, unfortunately, the bush is extremely dense, and we're hoping that the roads are sort of fairly open. They do tend to pull the panels and everything off as you go along with the bush being so thick. But we'll see what they've got in store for us this year. I heard it's exceptionally far, and we'll see what happens.
Indeed, but then in the Ford workshop, Neil Woolridge was planning victory, but knows that nothing is certain in the sport.
It would be fantastic if we could do it, but in all reality, it's a hard race. You know, as I'm sure everyone said, it's 1,000 kilometers through the desert of 3 days of racing. So we'd dearly love to do it, and there's no reason why we can't do it. The car's good. We've done a lot of preparation. We're experienced in this terrain. I love the long endurance part of a race like this, so it plays into our hand. But in saying that, there's a lot of other guys that are very quick that also enjoy this type of thing. So I'd love to win it.
What makes this race so special?
For me, it makes it so special is that it's the endurance side of it. It's a real long endurance race. It's not just the guy that can do the quickest 10 kilometers or 20 kilometers. It's 1,000 kilometers of which you have to preserve the car, but go fast, and also yourself too. Look after yourself, make sure you're in good shape, and make sure you can get it to the end. That's the first priority, is get to the end, but go as fast as you can to get there. So it's a bit of a balancing act, and I think that's what makes it quite special. That's you've got to be a bit experienced, and a bit of planning goes into it. It's not just go as fast as you can and get to the end, otherwise you won't make it.
Yeah, we've been trying to get the vehicle finished for the last 2 events, and we had a number of design changes that we went through, but we're very confident. Our very first race 10 years ago was the desert race, and we think this is the right event to try.
It's been a very long project. Tell us, how is this SP different to the other ones that will be running out there on the road?
Well, what we wanted was a bit more space in the vehicle, and we wanted some more sponsor space to give our sponsors exposure, and it's novel, it's different.
And who built the car for you?
The car was built by Stuart Thompson and Achim Bergman at Thompson Motorsport, and with a lot of help from Toyota Motorsport and Nissan Motorsport, funny enough, because all of the standard parts.
Now, let's set the scene for the special vehicle class.
Here it was the father and son combination, Collie and Quinton Silwalt, who was 4 points ahead of former champs Terence Marsh and his navigator Peter Groenewald. Collie was enjoying the top of the log.
It was absolutely wonderful. Did not expect it though. something new for us, obviously, after 10 years, because it's Quinton with me in the hot seat. So it feels wonderful. We're not really looking at the championship at the moment. It's only the 4th race, so we're halfway. So we're not really worried about where we are at the moment, but it's nice to be in.
You are the defending champions in this event. What are your expectations this time round?
Last year was a very nice race for us. Obviously, we did win on Father's Day. Quinton being with me was a wonderful present for me. So yeah, this year is also going to be Father's Day on Sunday. Let's hope it's going to happen again, but let's just be honest, the Kalahari's got a tendency of cutting you down to size. So we're definitely going to try our best. We do have a new set of wheels that we need to get used to. We're going to try our best, but our expectation is to try and finish first before you can win.
An old and very true saying in this type of motorsport. Marsh knows the line too.
Sugarloaf wasn't ideal. We had a gearbox failure. It was our first non-finish in 15 events in close on 2 years. So it was, I forgot how bad it feels to not finish. So we've been sulky for the good part of 3 weeks. But we're up and operational, and yeah, I'll have to be a little bit more aggressive now. I'd like to bounce back with a good result in this endurance event.
Now this event, it's how do you approach it? It's one of the toughest and longest and probably the most arduous on the calendar.
Look, it's 1,000 kilometers of very tough terrain. There's no doubt about it. We'll obviously need a good qualifying. I think everybody's aware of the fact that you need to qualify well in the desert. And then afterwards, what we call you have to stay in the hunt. If you have a bad qualifying, from there you can basically concentrate on the finish, but there's no ways you can win from a bad qualifying.
And that qualifying was to be over 95 kilometers in and around the Botswana capital. Teams were set off to complete the loop as quickly as possible to determine start positions for the next day's racing.
But as you heard, the drivers had to preserve calm, mind and body. There was a long testing and tough 1,000 Ks ahead.
Nissen's Vos and then 4-time champ Hannes Grobler led the way,
followed by Cronje and his navigator Birkin, with a dust gap of 2 minutes being observed.
Woolridge and Scholthammer in the Ford Ranger battered away next.
The prologue started and finished in Kumukwane with quick sections, thick sand and several river crossings, making up almost 100 Ks of extremely tough terrain. In fact, so tough that organizers warned that this loop might take almost 2 hours to complete.
Father and son Jaap de Bruin in the Micron Excel dealer team Toyota was setting the early pace.
With a flying Anthony Taylor in only his second off-road race of the series in his Castrol Toyota, together with Robin Houghton in the co-driver's seat.
And then Cronje and the wily navigator Chris Birkin shot by our vantage point in their Castrol Toyota. They too were quick over the first section.
But Vos and his stand-in co-driver young Louis Weitheld really had the bit between their teeth.
At this stage, just 2 minutes off the pace of the Micron team.
But a cracked windscreen for Vos, and that could lead to dust trouble in the cabin.
Unfazed though, they just sped on.
Vos working that gearbox hard.
And so was his stablemate Hannes Grobler. The evergreen 51-year-old was obviously nursing his Nissan Navara with an eye to the remaining 905 Ks of racing left.
But after just 7 Ks, Grobler picked up a flat.
That's desert racing for you.
Multiple motorbike and car champion Alfie Cox and his trusted navigator Henny Testierge slotted into 5th place out on the road as his Motorrite SP got the crowd going.
Tom Sutton and Brian Haviland in their brand new Feltex Imperial Toyota impressed immediately in 6th place, 85 seconds behind Cox.
And the brothers Zamatin, Henry and Maurice had their Class D Ryobi Nissan singing a merry tune as it was leading its category by more than 3 minutes.
With the next SP class car, that of Jaco Swanepoel and Keith Solomon in the IDM Cement Toyota entry.
The Route set out east of Cagatla to Manoko and then back past the west side of Tamaga to complete the 95 Ks.
Former national champions Woolridge and Schothammer enjoyed a solid yet unspectacular run. They were 6 minutes behind.
And just 36 seconds behind them, their teammate Kobus van Tonda and Rian Guelpa in the Unikrate Ford Ranger was chasing hard.
Okay, so take no prisoners.
And if you think that was quick, observe Cronje blasting through here as he was forced to change flats not once, but twice. He was in a mean mood.
That cost him at least 6 minutes, and he knew it.
In Class E, the sideways hopping antics of 4x4 Mega World's Dion Fenter and Ian Palmer got them the lead.
But in the production car class, the De Bruins, for the second year in a row in Botswana, set the quickest time for the prologue by 2 minutes and 17 seconds. The line in the sand had been drawn.
In the specials, it was all-out racing from the word go, as the winners from the Nissan Sugarbelt 400 led the way.
Gary Bertold and Andre Vermeulen in their big Atlas Copco Porter.
Shamir Variawa, who had just become a dad for the second time.
And he was ready to race, but they were all chasing 2007 champ Evan Hutchison and Akim Bergman in the Motorrad Racing Bat Spec 3.
He was 60 seconds faster than anyone else in the special vehicles.
With Nardis Alberts and Jeff Minute in their Rapsabat right in their element in these conditions, chasing in second. And surprisingly taking it easy through the water jump first time round.
And then Century Property Development's Colin Matthews and Alan Smith blasting away in third, 2 minutes off the pace.
Nick Harper in the second Atlas Copco Bat with stand-in co-driver Andrew Jalupski at his side, with themselves only 3 odd minutes back.
Herman Sulvold and Paul Helberg were sitting pretty in their Zarko Magnum in 5th place.
With John Moore and Tom Claassen in their free spirit, relegating some of the big-name teams down the order with a really fine showing early on.
Michael Whitehouse and Matthew Carlson in the first of the Regent Racing Bats were just more than a minute behind them, in 7th. While
Class B leaders, the 2 Dons, that's Thompson and Blakey, were motoring, but they had to. They were only ahead by 7 slender seconds.
And in Class B, the contest was equally tough. Lo De Bruin and Rudy Brits were only 31 ticks of the clock ahead in their Rubicon Bat.
The earlier traffic had churned up the route, and it was a guessing game at times.
But not for Hutchison and Bergman, who have triumphed here before and wanted to do it again. They were 81 seconds ahead at the finish line in Kumukwane.
The 08 Toyota Kalahari Botswana 1000 Desert Race continues.
Vehicle and asset finance from ABSA, going off the beaten track to find solutions.
The 4th round's prologue was a great one for Hugo and Jaap de Bruin for the 2nd year in a row.
Well, we had a pretty good day today. We had a clean run. Luckily for us, we didn't have any punches, and I think that's due to our good position that we have for tomorrow. Unfortunately, we had some power steering problems, but Toyota gave us a new power steering pump, and we're busy fitting it, and hopefully that will solve our problem. But as I said, very good run, nice prologue, suits my driving style, and I'm very glad to be on pole. We had a reasonable run. Early on we caught Hannes, he had a problem with the puncture, and so we passed him, and I knew it was going to be tricky on these new tyres. You know, you just go off the road here and it's going to be a big problem, and today proved it. I think in our team alone we got 6 punctures in 3 cars, so I was a bit conservative, but you know what, I'm definitely in the race. We both we're happy with our run afterwards, and it's a long race tomorrow, and I'm 3rd in class at the moment, I think, if the results are true. And probably where you want to be. You know, we were running in the front today, opening the route, and obviously you're slower. So it's not too much of a problem for me. We're definitely in with a good shout.
Alfie Cox was 5th, but his prologue stints have left the former national champion rather disappointed.
I think, you know, we haven't had the best time trials with the new SP, the sport that we're in. But today, it's been a great, I think we top 2 or 3, and I just think it's a combination of riding the bucks in the Botswana for so many years. I can read the terrain quite well, and also definitely Henny did an unbelievable job today. He was on the money with the navigation, so I can only put it down to a combination of me knowing how to read the terrain and him doing a great job. And yeah, we've had a good time, and we've got a small problem. We've got a leaking front shock, so we've got to sort that out tonight. But you know, it's a long race. You never win this race on the first day, so we just have to bring it home.
We had a reasonable run. We tried to keep it neat and tidy, but unfortunately we got two punctures. We'd actually caught up to Duncan. We were sort of driving in his dust. We got a puncture. The first one we changed quite quickly. I reckon it was about 2 minutes. And then about 30 k's from the end we got another puncture. Unfortunately the car sort of rolled forward off the jack, and the jack sort of got all jammed. That one was a bit of a mess. Tough day tomorrow.
And judging by the feverish activity after the prologue, everyone in every team knew that for sure.
Alberts was just happy to have finished the thing.
I think we had a brilliant day as far as, you know, where we come from. For the 4th race of the year, the second time trial we finished, so I'm quite happy with that side. I'd like to think it's a bit of experience and just pure luck. If we didn't have any punches, we got in and got out at the end, which always makes it easier.
It's unofficial, but I think we first in specials. We had a good time trial. It was nothing dramatic. We needed to have a good solid time trial without making any mistakes, and that's what we did. I didn't expect us to end up in the front, but quite a few other guys did have problems, so I think that's what's put us into the front. Overall, I think we're second, which is not too bad. Obviously, we're not going to have too much dust in front of us. There's only one SP in front of us. Hopefully all the stickers and the day glows will still be up there, haven't been knocked over by some of the cars. So you've always got the chance of getting lost out in front, trying to find the route and opening it up for the guys behind. But we've still got 2 full days of racing, so we just got to keep it neat and tidy. We've got to keep the car in good condition. We've got Nardis quite close behind us. I haven't seen all the rest of the results. It will depend on where everybody else is. But obviously, you know, with our not finishing too many races this year, we've got to have some good consistent finishes. It doesn't have to be wins, they just have to be, you know, good points in the bag. So that's the plan, to get that motor out back through to the end of tomorrow without too many special guys in front of us.
And as the last repairs were being done and the Botswana sun set on an eventful day, 2 exhausting runs totaling just more than 900 k's lay in wait.
Day 2 of the 2008 Toyota Kalahari Botswana 1000 Desert Race dawned, as they always do in this part of the world.
Clear skies and a temperature that brews into the 30s.
And as always, the racing would be hot too.
But in a race of this distance, caution is the watchword.
We had a nice run. A little bit bitty in the beginning, but we unfortunately had a puncture. But you know, that's racing. I mean, we've got 1,000 k's for the next 2 days, and we're looking forward to it. We're very optimistic.
Tactics for today?
Look, we'll have to let the race come to us, because it's apparently it's very tight in the beginning and very rocky, so we're not going to get by for the first 100 k's, not many guys anyway. And then we'll just let it develop, as it maybe by the service point if we could have moved up a few positions. And then that second loop's quite open, I believe, so we should have a good run today.
Yeah, you know, this desert race is long. Nobody ever won it on the time trial. You have to drive. I think that the old way we used to do it was to drive to the overnight and then race back. So I think we'll have to pull the same stops out again and just drive it there tonight and then tomorrow race it back.
Conditions on the prologue, are they going to give you an idea of what you can expect out there?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same thing as we get every year at the desert. You know, it's rocks and sand and tuck in between the trees and things like that. Really, it's lovely. I mean, there's no better race on the calendar than this one.
Shamir Wariawa, meanwhile, was still celebrating the birth of his son just the day before.
Now at least I got a full crew. I got a navigator and a driver. Yeah, it seems to, I think my wife only gives birth on racing days. So the last time was on Sansati,
and the second one now was before the desert, just a day before the desert. So, yeah, I'm happy. Tough.
A good omen for you.
Yeah, definitely.
And how was your prologue?
The prologue went off good, but 10 kilometers into the prologue, we picked up, well, we found after the prologue that we had dirty fuel and water in the fuel. So the whole prologue, we were just battling and trying to get the car to move. So we lost a bit of time, I think about 5 minutes. That's not too bad in 1,000 kilometers. So we'll try and make it up today.
For the host country Botswana, the Toyota 1000 Desert Race has always been one of the flagship events in the country.
This event means a lot to the people of Botswana. It's not only entertainment. You can see they've come out in big numbers to come and witness it. But it's not only that. It's not only that what causes the excitement. We are going to gain from it. You know, all these many people today will be buying from the shops. We have so many visitors, not only Botswana, but even from outside the country. So it really means a lot.
And leading off from the line means a lot too.
Yes, sir. No dust for the De Bruins and the Micron Excel dealer team Toyota as they led the procession off 59 cars from the start line and on their way.
And their charge wasn't the only one in good voice. Hutchinson and Bergman's bat also singing along.
Anthony Taylor, national track champion, was delighted with his third place off the line in the Castor Toyota.
With Chris Visser and Jaapie Badenhorst in a similar Toyota Hilux, third off the line in the SP class.
The De Bruins clearly meant business and were aggressive from the flag dropping.
With an even more aggressive driver, Hutchinson is giving the Motorride bat wings. Well, almost.
The defending national champion who had a horrifying accident in the Cape going flat out.
Meanwhile, the Toyota flag was being flown by Taylor and Houghton.
And the crowd were loving it.
But this exacting race throws everything at you. Visser and Badenhorst taking a softly, catchy monkey approach over the rocky stuff.
Up ahead for the teams was a 250k run to the first designated service point at Hatzalat Ladi, and there was a scheduled 15-minute decontrol, then the ride home, which would skirt the Central Kalahari Game Reserve.
Voss let it all hang out as he tried to take control.
And rolled as the dust indicated, he was catching up to Visser and Badenhorst.
At a rate of knots, actually.
The specials with a huge travel on the shocks and suspension were eating up the rough stuff. Matthews and Smith, third in Class A and going well.
Yeah, but Arnold, you know your kidneys are going to feel this at the end of the day.
There's no doubt about that. Cox, a man who boasts more than 24 national championships on 2 and 4 wheels, came through in 5th in the SP class.
But the dust made things tough, especially for the open cockpit specials. But Harper and Chalupsky were piling on the pressure.
And don't forget the pace.
That's right, Arnold, because the Silvo-Hellberg combination was closing in on them.
And clearly not holding back much at all. The deep and heavy desert sand had drivers fighting forearm and hand cramps, while navigators had to hold on for dear life.
Moore and Klaassen with a take 2 there, but firmly in the groove in 6th place.
Prince, Whitehouse and Carlson had started off smoothly and continued to take on the desert just like that.
And that's probably not the worst way to negotiate your way around, is it, Arnie?
Well, wouldn't quite know, haven't been there yet, but I assume so. With 500 k's of racing planned for the day, definitely not the wrong strategy. The newcomers, Thompson and Haviland, were doing the same thing.
With the new look Silvolt Racing Bat Spec 4 filling 7th place and looking nicely in control of things.
With the designated service points for bicycles temporarily out of service, Gary Gillingham and VZ van Sale in the Shellbat had kept their spot in the top 10.
And then the Class P leader and championship leaders, the two Dons, Thompson and Blakely Zarco, blasted past.
With the Zomatins in the Ryobi Nissan still at the head of affairs in Class D.
Talking brothers, in Class P, the brothers White, that's David and Gary, were trying to close the gap in their Rubicon Bat.
While the side note brothers, Johan and Etienne, were trying to put the pressure on them.
This whole sibling rivalry thing going on in Class P.
And in 8th place in the SP class, it was Swanepoel and Solomon had the Toyota Hilux pointed in the right direction.
With Woolridge and Schultheimer bemoaning their overcautious approach in the time trial, now having to wait for an overtaking opportunity.
And those were few and far between. After the first 70 k's of racing, the order on the road, the De Bruins setting the pace for the Toyotas, 1-2.
As a matter of fact, 6 Toyotas in the top 10. A great showing for the Johannesburg-based company.
And after those 70 k's, this duo, Variawa and Rousseau, was shooting up the order. Team Total were flying up into the top 10 and clearly looking like they meant business.
But the art here is to conserve the car and your energy, to get it all to the finish in one piece.
And the question was Variawa going too hard, too soon? That running order, and Matthews and Smith in 4th, with Moore and Klaassen pushing as hard as they possibly could. While Thompson and Blakey, the two Dons in 9th, and Variawa and Rousseau up into the top 10.
As for Fantonda and Guelph in the Ford Ranger, they were going nowhere. At least not until they started it again after their wrong slot and stall.
Locals certainly got their money's worth, and the Class B leaders, Lodebrain and Rudy Brits, were still holding off the defending national champions, the Cries.
Now another big mover was Cronier, who had gone from 12th in class up to 7th after having to contend with a lot of slower traffic.
But perhaps there was a blessing in disguise there. It meant that he was saving the Toyota.
You mentioned the Cries, and they were now in the lead in Class B by a scant 47 seconds.
Yeah, the race was definitely on.
With Simon Beckett and Stephen Harris also joining the fray, they in turn were just 33 seconds behind. Class B was boiling.
Ivor Tollefson and Quinn Evans, back on duty after becoming a father back in Britain, were trying to make up for lost time after a nightmare prologue where they were stuck behind a herd of cows.
Twice, actually.
Yeah, that's racing for you here, and the pressure was on for the Nissan duo.
In the E-Class, Fenta and Palmer were still in control in their 4x4 Mega World Toyota, but were being chased by Jack Peckham and Lucio Santoro in the Ford Ranger.
And in Class D, it was Cliff Weichelt and Jimmy Goch in the N1 4x4 Toyota who were enjoying the upper hand. Toyota was doing its own race proud.
But they would not have it all their own way. The Raconics team of Coetzee Labuschagne and Johan Gerber was just 57 seconds back and closing on the Class D leaders.
And Yanni Visser and Yorks LaRue were doing the same in Class E in their Team Barberspon Castrol Toyota.
It was tough in the trenches.
Especially if the trenches are dug in the desert.
In Class B, Bezuidenhout and De Bruyn were still holding on to 4th place.
While Peckham and Santoro had climbed 4 places and had the Ford Ranger purring along.
Driving like an Agatha Christie novel, with a few interesting twists and turns.
Meanwhile, Krobler has not exactly had the happiest of seasons. This time he had a 30-minute stop to repair a spring on the accelerator mechanism, not first prize.
We're back right after this.
Vehicle and asset